Legend of Total War here, and today we're doing another Total War Warhammer 3 Immortal Empires campaign review, this time covering Count Noctilus. So Noctilus's starting settlement is the Galleon's Graveyard, same starting settlement he's always had. Now his army used to start in this area here, and same thing with Calidor's army. So your initial engagement was in this general area, and this allowed you to basically choose whether or not you even wanted to invade Ulthuan or Lustria or just go wherever, because it was roughly the same amount of time to get to those locations. The downside of that was that by the time you got there, there was usually established armies. It only takes a couple of turns, especially on the higher difficulties, for the AI to build up a full stack. But in this case here, where you're clearly geared towards invading Ulthuan to begin with, you can hit them so early that they just don't have a chance to even pull up their pants. Calidor is basically finished right from the get-go. It's no challenge whatsoever, even from the starting faction strength ranking. Your army is already stronger than theirs. You take out their initial army here for nothing. You've got a hero to begin with, and you've got heaps of Raise the Dead. You got plenty of money, so it's just a completely one-sided engagement. Now, if you want to go north and take on Tyrannok straight away, which you're also at war with, you can also arrive there before they've had a chance to recruit a full stack. If you don't want to go over there and you want to instead take on Tyrion, you can totally do that. You can arrive and fight Tyrion before he is ready for you. So that's one of the beauties of Noctilus's campaign here, is that you really are incentivized to being hyper-aggressive. So hyper-aggressive players are going to benefit from this. Now, talking about Noctilus himself, I'd go so far as to say that Noctilus is the most powerful of the Vampire Coast legendary lords in terms of his overall bonuses, and also he's within the most powerful of the Vampire Coast factions, because all of these bonuses, they all sort of stack together and get sort of a ridiculous degree of power for Necrofex Colossus, and we'll go into that in a bit. You don't have to do that, and it can be considered cheese, but you're just heavily incentivized to doing that. So looking at his trait here, Lord of Dread, reducing the upkeep cost minus 20% for Necrofex Colossus units. Now, that 20% might not seem like as much as what other legendary lords can reduce their preferred unit. So, for example, Katarin reducing the Ice Guard by, say, 50%. But the thing is with 20% here is that the Vampire Coast already have loads of different ways of reducing the upkeep cost for Necrofex Colossus, and so you're getting it very close to actual 0%. I don't think you get it to actual 0%, but you get it very bloody close. And one of the best things about this as well is because in Warhammer 3 the supply line penalty has been severely reduced, you can retain that sort of really cheap Necrofex Colossus well into the late campaign when you've got, say, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 armies, because those supply line penalties aren't sort of erasing that by quite as much. And then he's also got weapon strength plus 15% for large units. Now that's melee weapon strength, not missile strength. So looking at his skill line here, he's probably got one of the best skill lines out of any legendary lord in the game. It's very meaty. You're not going to be able to get everything, so you've got to choose with care. His mount is the Necrofex Colossus. He's the only lord in the game that can get that, so it's a unique mount for him. Most of the stuff here is generic, as in every other lord is going to have it. So the melee line there is generic. The magic line is full of generic skills, but he's actually a triple lore caster, where he's got Shadow, Vampire, and Lore of the Deeps. Magic. Now the thing is with Noctilus is, while he doesn't have a trait to reduce the Winds of Magic cost like Lore Master of Vampires, so he's not amazing at casting any of these spells, he is able to cast from a really good range of spells. Melkoth Mystifying Miasma, Curse of Undeath, Invocation of Nehek. You've got your zombie spell there, although the vampire version is better than the Drowned Dead just because it's way cheaper and the unit is essentially the same. Smoke and Mirrors, Pit of Shades, and Wind of Death. These are all amazing to have access to, especially considering Wind of Death, especially overcasted, is so much cheaper to cast in Total War Warhammer 3 than it was in Total War Warhammer 2. Going through his actual unique line, though, it's just these ones here. He's got Master of the Dreadfleet, which gives you Lord Recruit Rank +2 all provinces. Regenerative Hull, which gives you Casualty Replenishment Rate +8%, Local Recruitment Capacity +1. Noctilus's faction is able to recruit very quickly, so that's another reason why you just sort of incentivized to be hyper-aggressive in Ulthuan. Vandal, this one here is not so impactful. Income from raiding and income from sacking settlements, 8% is not that much, but pirate crew growth +5%, +5 is very useful because you want to really try to get Noctilus's pirate ship growth as quick as possible. Of the Von Carstein line will give you passive ability regeneration, which is not essential considering you've got access to Invocation of Nehek, but it's better than not having it. And Attribute Causes Terror is a little bit redundant since a Necrofex Colossus mount causes terror by default anyway. You can sort of see it over here. So that's a little bit redundant. And then you got Sea Curse over here. So this is something that incentivizes you a little bit to not just spam Necrofex Colossus. You've got Leadership for Depth Guard, Terrorgeist, and Deck Droppers, and giving them +8 melee defense. But I still think that the super cheap Necrofex Colossus is way more impactful. And then you've got Invincible Fleet over here, which gives Noctilus the Unbreakable trait, basically making him immune from the army losses penalty, and extra leadership +5 for the Lord's army. So I wouldn't say that you need to get Invincible Fleet, especially considering how many traits he's got here, how many skills he's got. You may want to not really invest into all of those. It's entirely up to you. Now, the thing is with Noctilus is that I think there's a fair bit of oversight in regard to them. I don't think that Creative Assembly really paid that much attention to the Vampire Coast when porting them over from Total War Warhammer 2, because the supply line penalty has been reduced, right? Instead of 15% for each new army, it's only 4%. And to accommodate that, most lords in the game, in their reduced upkeep cost skill, it goes from 3, 6, and 9% reduced upkeep cost. But the Vampire Coast, they go from 3 to 8 to 15%. In terms of their reduced upkeep cost. So that's going to stack on top of the 20% there for the Necrofex Colossus. And then, of course, you've got Black Flag over here. So just here alone, you've got more reduced upkeep cost than what most other lords in the game have got. I think that's just an oversight there. Now, there's other things that you can do to reduce upkeep cost as well. You've got technologies in here. So this tech is really useful, reduces the upkeep cost of them by an additional 10% in all stacks, and reduces their recruitment duration by 1 turn. Now, the base time to recruit a Necrofex Colossus is 3 turns. So by researching that technology there, you've reduced it down to 2. Except that Noctilus's faction trait reduces it by 1 anyway. So Noctilus is able, actually anyone in Noctilus's faction, is able to recruit a whole Necrofex Colossus in a single turn. No other Vampire Coast can do that. And you've got extra pirate crew recruitment capacity, so you can pretty much build an entire full stack of Necrofex Colossus in essentially 2 turns, just because of all the different ways you get extra recruit slots and reduced recruit time. On top of that, you've got extra campaign movement range, you got reduced upkeep cost 15% for all units in your army there. All the stuff is stacking to just make these units ridiculously cheap. And you do have to get to tier 5 in order to get the Necrofex Colossus with Noctilus. Now, in one way that they have sort of tweaked the Vampire Coast is it does take longer to build them up to tier 5 than it did previously. But overall, an extremely powerful faction, maybe even more powerful than they were in Total War Warhammer 2, and they were insanely powerful there. Overall, I think this is a really good campaign for somebody that is just looking to be ridiculously overpowered and want to build a Doom stack, because it just seems like you're incentivized to do that. Looking at a couple of other things, you gain war declaration missions, which, they're okay, good way to get some money and some infamy. Diplomatic relations with followers of Nagash, pirate crew capacity, we already looked over that. But overall, I think this is probably my favorite of the Vampire Coast campaigns, just because of how aggressive it is, because I like to be an aggressive player, and I do like building Doom stacks. And most of the other factions in this game now, you're not really incentivized that much to building Doom stacks anymore, but Count Noctilus still is. So I don't think it's a campaign for everyone, but if you're specifically interested in that type of campaign, then Count Noctilus is definitely up your alley. Anyway, that's the end of this one here, guys. Let me know in the comments below what you think of Count Noctilus, whether you agree or disagree with my assessment. I think it's a very easy campaign with super strong armies. Appreciate you guys. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.